Second Tri-Cities Writers Festival. Before we begin, I'd like to do a territorial acknowledgement. We acknowledge with gratitude and respect that the Coquitlam Public Library is on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Coquitlam First Nation, including those parts that were historically shared with the Katzie and other Coast Salish peoples. The name Coquitlam was derived from the Hunkaminam word meaning redfish up the river. We thank the Coquitlam who continue to live on these lands and care for them, along with the waters and all that is above and below. After the success of last year's inaugural Writers' Festival, we were determined to expand it. We have therefore included workshops requested last year, moved our cocktail reception and panels discussion to Evergreen Cultural Center. In addition, it's gone from a 2-day event to a 4-day event. We have a lineup of incredible authors and are super excited that so many of you are participating in this. And now the author that you are all here to listen to. There will be time for questions at the end. Catherine Hernandez, she, her, is an award-winning author and screenwriter. She is a proud queer woman who is of Filipino, Spanish, Chinese, and Indian descent and married into the Navajo Nation. Her first novel, Scarborough, won the Jim Wong Shu Award for the unpublished manuscript and was a finalist for several awards, including Canada Reads 2022. She won the screenplay for the film adaptation of Scarborough, which was nominated for 11 Canadian Screen Awards and won 8, including Best Picture and Best Adapted Screenplay. Her second novel, Crosshairs, was shortlisted for the Toronto Book Award and made several Best of lists of 2020. Her third novel, The Story of Us, was an instant national bestseller, was selected for the One Book Peterborough Kitchener and Simon Fraser University. She is currently working on a few television projects. Her fourth novel, Behind You, about a young girl growing up in Scarborough with a serial killer at large, was published last year, was an instant national bestseller. Before it hits the shelves, it was optioned by Conquering Lion Pictures to become a feature film with Catherine writing the screenplay. So for the audience out there, please put your questions in the chat. And if you are in rooms 136 and 137, please see one of our staff who will enter your questions into the chat. So welcome, Catherine. I'm delighted to interview you, and I'll pass it on to you.
Well, I'm delighted to be here. Thank you so much to the organizers for having me be part of this. I hope you all are, wherever you are, just doing the best that you can during these really challenging times. Right now, more than ever, reading, learning, libraries are very important. And so I'm really honored to be part of this. Thank you. I wish I was there in person. Let's just be real. I love this province and I love Coquitlam area. I love the Tri-City area. So yes, big love to you all. I'm going to be reading from Behind You, which is, as mentioned, it's loosely based on what it was like to live in Scarborough when a serial killer was at large. We don't have to mention his name. He doesn't deserve it. We all know that. I know that in BC, you all are very familiar, just as we are here in Toronto, what it's like to have a serial killer in our midst. Yeah. We don't ever have to give them any attention. So I'll be reading from this book. In this particular book, the protagonist is Alma. She is a Filipinx film editor, and she is put to task to edit a true crime series about the most notorious killers of the 20th century. And when she realizes that the final episode is about a fictional serial killer by the name of Scarborough, that goes by Scarborough Stalker, she remembers her past living in Scarborough during that time and is triggered about the abuse that she was surviving in her own household. So on this particular day, in the present day, she is trying to celebrate her wedding anniversary with her wife, Nira, as best she can, despite the fact that her past is really on her mind. Where are you right now? Nira says to me. That's a good question. I look around, unsure of the answer. Oh yes, we are in our favorite gelato joint, the same gelato joint we went to on our first date. I realize that the tips of my fingers are touching my right cheek, no longer swollen and tender from my mother's aggressions. Suddenly, I am an adult, now facing a display of endless flavor options, the hipster behind the counter waiting for me to make my choice. I scrambled to make it seem as though I was paying attention and autopilot my selection. Uh, sorry, peanut butter and dark chocolate. That's not what he was asking you, babes. Nira smiles sheepishly at the hipster. He was asking you if you wanted waffle cone or plain. Waffle, of course, I say, feeling like my shoes are 2 sizes larger than my feet, and my shirt of foreign fabric. Can't wait to get out of here. This place is not what I remember it to be. It used to be simpler back then, back when we were in school. Back then, there was just a small counter with flavors such as chocolate and vanilla and mint. Now the hipsters have moved into this neighborhood, and with them, they brought their ridiculous gastronomic tastes. I don't need black bean. I don't need activated charcoal. I just want things to be simple. Why can't things be simple? I can see from Nira's nostalgic expression that she is trying to relive our romantic moments from long ago. So I try too, and I hold her hand as we stroll down the street. But I'm not really holding her hand. It's more like I'm hoping she can pull me out of this water I am drowning in. I just want to surface. Oh, look, our favorite bench is up for grabs. Nira points and says, there used to be a bush right here, remember? Just across from us, and no one can see all the nasty things we did with each other. She leans into me and takes another suggestive lick of her pistachio ice cream. Given my state of mind, I'm not sure that I can make love tonight. I hope she cools down. I finish my ice cream in several efficient bites, no drips. I wipe my hands. I barely remember the taste of the ice cream. What flavor did I get? I know, Nira says. Let's list all of our accomplishments over the last 22 years. You achieved your master's in education and you completed your principal's qualifications program. I offer immediately. I'm surprised by myself. I think I'm feeling more normal now. Maybe I can still save this evening. I can't tell you how proud I am for you doing that while raising a kid. We're still raising a kid, Alma. He is far from being done cooking yet. I know we agreed on being progressive parents, being all positive and shit, but do you find yourself acting like, like a Puritan? Like, remember when we sat down and told ourselves that our child wasn't going to have sex in some alleyway? Or that we were going to celebrate his changing body? Remember how self-righteous we were? But there's something about his burgeoning sexuality that makes me want to lock him up. She rolls her eyes. I laugh, grateful that she's experiencing the same challenges. I tell her about my exchange with Mateo and Hong that morning, but I leave out the part where Mateo corrected Hong about how she would spend her extra time and how badly I failed at controlling the situation. I just tell her the basics. Mateo thought he could bring his girlfriend home, but I happened to be there. I keep it simple, hoping Nira won't reprimand me for being soft. If our family were a corporation, she would be the CEO and I would be that dude in the mailroom. She rolls her eyes. See, that's what I'm talking about. I used to wipe his bum. Do you remember when he had pinworms? Do you remember me spreading his ass cheeks apart while you rubbed coconut oil on his anus? Do you remember teaching him how to retract the foreskin on his penis before urinating? Now he's putting his teenage penis into the vagina of a teenage girl. Wrap your head around that, Alma. I do as she tells me and I instantly regret it. Anyway, this isn't a conversation for our anniversary, but when we have the calories for it, we need to discuss boundaries. I don't want to clean his room and find, things. What things? I don't know why I asked. You know what things? Condoms. Like, I can't, Alma. I don't know if I have it in me to see a condom in his garbage can. A used condom. She does this to herself. She grosses herself out. I have to stop her before it goes too far. I cradle her sweet brown face, trying to be as present as I can be, despite the knot behind my belly button and the phantom sting on my cheek. Okay, now. I will take over garbage collection until he moves out. Thank you.
Do you ever narrate your own books? Sorry, I so enjoyed listening to. Do you?
Yeah, I do. All of my audiobooks were narrated by me.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't realize that because I usually listen to audiobooks. Everybody knows my love for audiobooks. So, and now I can tell why, because you're really good at that. But
Oh,
I laughed when I remember reading this section, or probably listening to it, and laughing because we had kind of the same experience with my son when he became a teen, and it was like, God, you can't do this.
yes. I mean, like, I really wanted to capture that, because really behind you is about the insidiousness of rape culture.
Yes.
Like, that's like a major theme of it, is that we always have like this image that, when we have a serial killer that's present, it's like, as soon as we get rid of that guy, then we're done.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
But
Yeah.
actually, serial killers, like any kind of harm, small, large, like, I don't even know if you could really, measure it, but any kind of harm doesn't happen in a silo. It happens because an entire society allows it to happen.
Absolutely.
And so when for this, like, in the present day, Alma is grappling with not only what her past is, living in a place where there was a serial killer present, but then she's also surviving harm at home,
Hmm.
being in an abusive household. But in the present day, she's thinking, like, there is a possibility that my son is being harmful to his ex-girlfriend. And so like, there's so many reasons. I mean, all of us have had the reasons where we've seen harm and we're not sure if we should step in. Is it wrong, like, all those things. So I find all of that really interesting, and also I feel that it's necessary for us to have those conversations about how all of us are playing some part in sexual harm, right?
Yes.
That once we say that with honesty, right, with our whole bodies, like, yes, we need to deal with this, right? That not only then can we actually see change happen, right? Yeah, yeah.
Again, so topical. What's in the
Yes,
news right now, right?
yes, yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
mm,
no, absolutely. It's I think also, like, writing it, I went through my own journey where, you'll see in the book that Alma at first, I mean, like, really is like this person that's like, people have harmed me. People have harmed me. How can I make sure that my son isn't harming his ex-girlfriend?
right.
And you see, like, as she just realizes, like, what hand has she played in teaching her son to be a certain way, right? That's like owning up to that and being accountable, for all of us to be accountable, is just a really necessary step. Yeah.
Yeah, the importance of consent
Yes. Yes.
in both ways too. Like, yeah,
Yes, absolutely. And it starts with parenting. It
yeah,
starts
for
with how we
sure.
parent our children, especially masculine folks. Like,
Yeah.
so yeah. Yeah.
Your books are all so different and with such difficult and challenging subjects like racism, abuse, murder, hate. They aren't always easy to read, but so well written that you can't help it. Um, so, how do you protect yourself when you write them?
Oh, thank you for asking that question, just because uh, you know, I really do feel like all of us as writers, like, we are, when you're called to do that, you're basically, when you're called to this vocation, it's like you're saying, I want to be a mirror of society. I want to mirror the humanity that I am seeing, and then giving it back to humans. So it's like this beautiful loop in which then the people who read it, they see themselves. Like, it's a beautiful loop, and you're that conduit, right? You're that tool of creation. um and then it also means that with everything, every tool has to be put down at some point. Like, it
Mm,
has to be put away. you know we need to rest. I need to remember to care for myself, and like, that word self-care is just like so co-opted in capitalism, where it's like, spa day, blah blah.
yeah, go to the spa. You'll feel better
Yeah,
about yourself. Yeah.
yeah, but I think it's deeper than that when it comes to being an artist, is that I have to really think about, like, how, well, at least for me, I know that that's not for everybody. It's like, how am I a tool for change?
Mhm.
So like, I have to really close my eyes and think about that. Like, how am I going to do that today? It's a question I have to pose to myself, especially during these terrifying times. How am I doing that today? How am I standing up? What bravery do I have to find within myself to carry on, even though it's really scary, right?
Yeah.
Um, and and sometimes it means the answer is today you rest.
Right.
Today you have to really leave your laundry on the floor. You do not do the dishes. You allow people to cook for you. You allow friends to listen to you. And you don't think about stories. Try not to think about stories. Try not to think about ideas that you might have, and just like let your mind go blank, and
Yeah.
instead just observe, like, and what are the activities that I can do that, and so for me, walking is a really big thing, like just walking and letting my mind go blank. Being with my chosen family, um to really remember connection,
Mm-hmm.
because their energy really, like, really, we feed each other, right? Because I know that they're going through challenging things too. Like we are almost like holding on to each other on this life raft. That's what it feels like during this chapter in history,
Yeah.
right? So I'm glad for that. I'm glad for like these things, and then also just nature, um knowing that my grief, whatever it might be, my grief, my rage, is that I could feed it to nature, as and nature knows that it's a gift, and they give me back oxygen, microorganisms, like all the things, right? It's like we know that we're part of a giving cycle between the two of us. So yeah, but it does have to be very regimented, that I give myself that time. So like even before you speaking to you all, I've just been in a room, a television writing room, really like working with writers to come up with a story, because I'm working on a television show right now. And that is like really beautiful, like, sitting there and just like really thinking about like, what kind of television do I want to create? Um, Making these characters come alive off of the page. So after that, I really needed to take like 1 hour to like really walk around,
Mm.
um, in the hustle and bustle of Toronto, of downtown Toronto, but like walking around and just like letting myself see trees, see birds, see children playing, just to renew myself, and then come back in here into the hotel room and then speak with you all. Like I need to take that time. So that, yeah, it's very regimented.
Yeah. But it has to be, because otherwise you just get caught up in that, right? And then it doesn't, yeah. I do the
Yeah.
same thing. I go for walks, or often with a friend, and that helps too, right? Just
Yeah,
talking.
you have to schedule it in. You have to
Yeah,
schedule it, like you like
100%.
a dentist appointment or whatever.
Yeah,
Like you have to schedule in that time to refill your battery. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Because sometimes when I'm reading your books, I actually have to take a break for a little bit, or I'll read a little bit and I'll put one down, because I'm like, I just need to exhale for a bit. And I do that with not just your books, but any difficult book that I read. It's important that I read it, but I also need to take care of how I'm reacting to it, right? So,
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
Very much. Yeah.
Um, so I just finished reading Crosshairs, and when I read the epigraph, and I immediately thought, oh, this is going to be a tough book to read. So for those of you who haven't read it, it says, to the people of privilege, you will survive your discomfort while reading this book. But many, like me, who sit dangerously at various intersections of identity, will not survive long enough for you to complete the last page. What will you do? And that just stopped me. Like, I actually had to close the book for a couple of minutes and go, holy, this is going to be something. Um, it was an easy subject matter, and I know you wrote it in 20, well, it was published in 2020,
Yeah.
but it hits pretty close to home now. So what prompted you to choose this story?
Yeah. Okay. So I want you to imagine that it was published in 2020, but
Yeah,
remember it was written well before then.
right.
So I okay. So when I write, I am in communion with my ancestors.
Okay.
So you know, I let them speak to me through images of like what is important right now, what is like, what do I need to say, like how do I make this character do this and like they really are speaking to me, and it's a form of mediumship.
Mm.
I truly feel that that's what it is. And I remember there were a series of floods happening in the Rouge area of Scarborough, and I saw a park bench basically almost completely submerged in the river, like because the river was that high because of flooding. I had my kayak and we were just like kayaking around it going like, what, that's a park bench in there. And I could see
Yeah.
like the numerous things that in your mind you're like that should be above ground, but it's underwater. And it was quite chilling. And what was even more chilling was how a lot of people were saying, oh, it's just that it's just one of those years where there's a lot of water. Like this must have been like 2017 or something like that. Like
Right.
it's one of those years where there's just a lot of water. It's nothing to worry about. And so all of that just seemed strange to me. And I then I when I started putting pen to paper, the message from the ancestors was you need to issue a warning. You can't pull any punches. You have to just say it as it is. Like the entire time when I was writing, I was like, this is really intense. And I thought, don't stop. It doesn't matter if people are going to like this book. A lot of people didn't. Let's just be honest. A lot of people didn't. But it was truthful.
Yeah.
And I just wrote it. It comes out during a time where obviously all of us are in lockdown. And it was kind
That's
of weird. I was
true.
like, this is really strange. Okay, so lockdown, we're starting to see basically this rise of fascism, right?
Mhm.
There's lockdown. We're starting to see like blaring inequities that are causing widespread devastation. At the same time, there's like wildfires, like all these things were like just starting to really, really ramp up. And then also like a political unrest, right? Then And I remember uh getting these messages, like when it was released in the States, getting these messages from people reading it saying, how did you know January 6th was going to happen? Right. And I kept on saying, ancestors said it.
Yeah.
Ancestors said it.
Oh God. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then now seeing more and more political unrest that mirrors exactly what I had written in Crosshairs.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where I get it. You don't have to like the book. It was a warning. You don't have to like a warning. Like I whatever, but I still stand by it. I stand by what my ancestor said. I get that it's not everybody's cup of tea to read something so intense. However, I really felt that it was important for me to create that book, create the TEDx talk that I did in partnership with that book, which is about embodied allyship. Because at this moment in time, we have to say so much more than like, thank you and sorry, as we would do in like a land acknowledgement. We actually have to take action.
Yes.
We have to acknowledge the land with our entire body, and we have to acknowledge our humanity with our entire body. And that was what Crosshairs was aiming to do. Because I felt so much frustration around people, like amount of calories that people will spend trying to show that they're not racist, when I'm like, the same amount of calories could be spent learning how not to be racist
Exactly.
and practicing, because it takes practice, just as you would learn like a new hockey footwork. You go into any ice rink in Canada and there is always that person in one of the areas just really working on their skating footwork over and over and over again. That is the level of training that you have to do to get your body out of this this cycle of believing that you're better than everyone.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I still receive messages going, what is with this book? Oh my gosh. Right. And I also still receive messages like, how dare you? I'm a good person.
Yeah.
How dare you like what? I'm not a villain. I'm not like, I still get messages like that. I get threats. I get like all sorts of things. So yeah, but I stand by what my ancestors gave. It was a warning. And here we are now.
Here we are now. I think that's what I kept. Oh my God, this is exactly what's happening now in the US. And, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah. But like no surprise, right? Like
Right.
by a brown queer woman, like no
Yeah.
one's gonna listen. But so like I feel a bit like a Cassandra, but like you know, that's just the reality. Yeah.
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 It was, yeah. I highly recommend it for anyone
Thank
who hasn't
you.
read it yet.
Thank you.
Um, Scarborough has been made into a movie, and I read that Behind You has been as well. So, how much input do you have with the movies?
Well, I mean, I guess it all depends on like the project. Like yeah, Behind You right now is in the middle of development, so that's really fun. Um, uh, for Scarborough, it okay. So usually, what happens is that like if you're an author, if you're lucky, that maybe a producer's like, I would like to option this book, which means like I would like to try to make this into a film, and
Mhm.
I'll pay you a fee, you know, like as like the author, to have the rights over the next maybe 2 years to see if I can get the funding to make it a film, la 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 la. So that's the usual kind of journey that takes place with book adaptations. I had received you know, a few messages from filmmakers saying like, would I I would love to option this. And I looked at their reels, like these filmmakers reels, and really talented filmmakers, but very polished. And
Mhm.
Scarborough is not a polished place. Like that's what's so beautiful about it, is that it's
Yeah.
raw, it's real, you know. Um and I that's when I had contacted documentary filmmakers who are also my friends and colleagues, Shoshana Kai and Rich Williamson from Comfy Film, saying, would is it possible that you could shoot it like a documentary and then I can just write it, but it's like it's a fiction script? Like, does that even exist? And this is before um, movies such as Nomad existed,
Okay.
right? So like Nomad very much, it looks like a documentary, but it's fiction, right? Um, so they said, well, we can try, sure, like just give it a try. And they said, well, there's a deadline actually for funding 2 weeks from now. Do you think you can maybe give like maybe a sample of what you're thinking it could be? And I was like, okay, sure, I can do it. So over 2 weeks, I actually wrote the entire script.
Oh, wow.
Why not? Why not? Just give it a go. So I just threw it together. I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
Even have the software. Like I was like, eh. And then that was the script that ended up winning the Canadian.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's like a case very strange. Like this is obviously an unusual situation where no one was saying anything about an option. Like, you know, like it was just more like I had reached out to my friends saying, like, you know, what do you think? And then here we are now. Now Shasha and Rich are, you know, good for them that they were lauded for their beautiful production of Scarborough. And I've loved working with them. Now that's that, you know, like there was not, when I say there was control, as in like I had control over what the script was going to look like. They obviously had some feedback, but we worked together very much like a team. And I also wanted them to know that I trusted their choices. So well, a lot of times they're like, well, what if we did this to change the scene like this? And I said, sure. Now again, very unusual, very
Mhm.
that was the case. Like that's the case for television and film. Now for other projects, like it might be just that, like I really feel strongly that because I am a screenwriter, like I would love to adapt it, because I already, when I'm writing a book, I'm already thinking about like how
Oh,
is this going to exist in other mediums.
yeah.
And yeah, with Behind You, I had already seen sort of like the filmic quality of it all, especially because part of the issue that I have with rape culture is the true crime genre, which it does. It's like Behind You talks about that, about
Yeah.
the issues with true crime, that it really upholds this patriarchal view of, just like putting the responsibility on vulnerable populations to protect themselves when a perpetrator is in their midst, right? Like stuff like that. So I that's why I felt like it has to be either a television show or a film, because it just felt really meta, like that. That's like,
Yeah.
where it's about the making of a television show. Could it be a television show about the making of a television show that's a true crime series? So that felt right. But then we just decided, because of the way that television, like the television industry is right now, where it really is very limiting to the creativity of screenwriters,
Okay.
is that Clement Virgo, who will be directing the film and as a producing the film, was just like, let's make this a film, and then that way you can really flex your muscles with the screenplay. And that's exactly what happened. As soon as he gave me the go ahead to just make it a film, it felt so good. So right now the script is just in development, and I feel really great about it. Like every step of the way, I feel great with every draft. And it's nice to do film again after being in television, where there's like very specific parameters as to like how you're telling a story because of commercials, because of there being so much money on the line,
Right.
that it has to be made a particular way. Yeah. Yeah.
My sister saw Scarborough on the plane and then called me and said, "You have to watch this movie. It's so good."
Oh,
And
good.
so I said, "Oh, I've read the book." So, and then I did go watch the movie, but I always read the book first. She's the,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, good, good. I'm
Yeah.
glad. I'm glad. Yeah, that's great. And it's so funny. I feel like I heard so many people watching it in the plane. Like it's really,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah.
I think people recognize Scarborough, right? Like if you spend any time I've spent a lot of time in Scarborough in my life. So like I
Yeah.
know, yeah, that was funny. Um, so what TV shows have you, well, what involvement have you had on, like I only know about your movies. So
Yeah, well, that was okay. So the thing about the television is that, with regards to television and television development, I actually can't tell you.
okay.
Then this is the weird thing. It's just because coming from theater, I found that really odd, because in theater, oh, we can talk on and on and on about like, what did you do with your one person show and what's the development of it. Like it could be like a 3-hour conversation in which you're completely talking about, like, openly about what's happening with your projects. And then when in television, it's like very like hush hush,
Okay.
talk about it. And I don't know. I just find it odd, but yeah. I mean, people know that I'm working on like feature films. Like it's the news about like what has been optioned, like which ones of my books have been optioned, is very open. Like people know about, the media knew about it. But when it comes to television, I think it's just because you're not wanting to jinx it, because
Right.
so much, I would tell you that so much television actually doesn't end up getting made.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. That I know.
Yeah.
Well, I hope for your sake it does.
Yeah. And there's one show that is it's going to be on air this fall. So
Okay.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. I think that all of your books, while challenging during the story and reading the story, end with hope. Um, and so why did you like what prompts you to do that?
Well, I to be, there's like that entire thing about like trauma porn. It's like, it is there. I totally believe that it exists, because
Mm,
I'm not there to hurt the reader. I'm telling people, sometimes I'm offering and painting very, very difficult images, like as an author, you're painting these images for people, like through your words, right?
right.
And I'm not doing it to hurt people. I'm doing for it so that you're clearly understanding the situation, and the gravity of the situation. And then with that, if I don't offer a blueprint for hope, then I'm just doing it for like just for to be
Right.
right?
Yeah.
I so I it's out of awareness of and respect for the reader. I want to make sure that they know that there's another way. I think with all of my characters, there's always a chance for someone to do something differently. Like they're having a difficult conversation with themselves, and they're considering another way of doing stuff, because like doing life, doing being human. They're considering another way of doing it because it's possible. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the reality of being queer. Queer to me is not necessarily like, it's not just an identity. To me, it is an action. I'm queering Valentine's, I'm queering capitalism, I'm queering my marriage, like everything, because it means how can we do things differently? Can we do things better? Can I imagine another possibility? All of my characters do that. um and uh and it's wonderful because I'm the writer, I'm the boss of the storyline. I can give somebody hope. um and yeah, and always having difficult conversations with themselves is like a major theme of what I do. Yeah.
That's which book character is closest to your personality?
Oh my gosh.
A little bit of everyone.
Yeah, I mean, like there's residues of me with everybody. I'd say like the closest I'd say for me, like, personality wise, is definitely Alma from Behind You.
Okay.
Just because like she's um she's just she's trying her very, very best to make sure that her family is thriving, and yet there's so much unsaid, like, and yet there's like there's she realizes that she can do better. I hoped I like That's the kind of life I like living, where I'm like, there's a lesson here in this. I can do better. I can do better. And also has a sense of humor about the mistakes along the way as you're trying desperately to become a better person. I think definitely Alma. Yeah. Yeah. But at the same time, also like her entire journey of becoming a film editor, uh, I was really trying to write like what it is to me to when you are a survivor of things, how you then become, how sometimes that forces you to become an artist because you're sort of knocked slightly off center, which happens to Alma as a survivor of violence. And she becomes an observer, and that makes her an excellent filmmaker. And so, the making of an artist, that for me is like I love her journey. Like I'm glad that I created it because it's similar to mine. Yeah.
Um, I run several book clubs here at work, and we read two of them. We read The Story of Us,
Oh, good.
and we all loved them and felt quite strongly about the difficulties being a Filipina nanny.
Yeah.
And I listened to you had done an Amnesty International, and I listened to interview, and I listened to that one. I think you were a nanny for a bit. Is that true?
Yeah. So I've taken care of kids on and off since like in my early 20s, but I had a home daycare
Okay,
several years in Scarborough. And so being a caregiver, so I want to make it clear is that I was a live out caregiver.
right.
And
Yeah.
that's it's part of the privilege of being a Filipinx person who was born in Canada, right?
Mhm.
So I didn't have anything, there was a lot of privilege around. I could still choose, I could still choose who I was working with. I could let a child like let a family go because of it, like if I didn't feel safe, which has happened several times. However, even with all of that privilege, was I still cheated financially by some parents? Absolutely. Was I cheated for my time by some parents? Absolutely. Um, and I was also stalked by some parents. sexually harassed. Yeah, and so it, like, just to give you an idea, is that like even with all that privilege, is that you still can be mistreated as a caregiver. And I mentioned that just because it is now, with my privilege as someone who is an author, who is, for example, paid to do events like this, is that I really try to get people to understand, please pay your caregivers well, pay
Yeah.
them on time,
Yeah.
respect their time, because they have an important job to do, which is to take care of your children. It requires a lot of skill, and I'm really honored to have had that skill. And I've taught like 30 plus children how to potty train, sleep train them. I'm proud that I got to do that. But that kind of muscle, these like mostly hardworking women, is
Yeah.
that we should really respect feminine labor. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. I've only potty trained 2 children, and that was more than enough for me. So, it's just,
Yeah.
oh, um, no, but we all love the books.
Oh,
We
good.
all commented on the employer, like how she was stuck working for employers that are just horrific. And what choice does she have? Right. And the power dynamic was like
Yeah.
just brutal and so
Well,
not fair.
I remember one time where so the book, some of it was based on the research that was done many years ago when I was doing a play with the Sulong Theater Collective. We were it was it was so interesting creating that play, where it was like a 45-minute play talking about the emotional truths behind the notorious live-in caregiver program here in Canada. And the issue being is that the issue, like many issues with that program, but the number one thing is the fact that it's a live-in caregiver program,
Yes.
which really leaves people vulnerable to abuse of all kinds: financial abuse, verbal, emotional, physical abuse, sexual abuse. What I remember doing interviews, like radio interviews for that play, and this one journalist said, when you say forced migration, like what, like was someone putting a gun to their head? And I remember hearing that, like they were just really like sincerely clued out about like what
Yeah.
does forced migration mean. And in the story of us is that you see that there is a natural disaster that leads MG, the protagonist, to a city center, so Manila. So she goes from like a provincial town to Manila, to a city center, and then is just basically living hand to mouth with her husband, her sister-in-law, and her sister-in-law's 2 kids.
Yeah.
And they cannot make ends meet unless she ends up going to work abroad, first in Hong Kong, and
Yeah.
then Toronto. And so that kind of thing about forced migration, and and also being really honest about, when I say that's a natural disaster happens in that book. However, we as Canadians, like, we need to really be honest when we say that natural disasters. And I say this because of the fact that Canada is the second most prevalent mining presence in the Philippines on Indigenous land.
Mm-hmm.
And that has an environmental impact. And so when you see footage of the Philippines surviving another typhoon, another flooding,
Right.
we have had a hand in that. And so when we think about like how vulnerable we're putting these folks in, we're putting them into a vulnerable position. And then we have this LCP, so the live-in caregiver program, making it seem like as if they're lucky to serve us as Canadians under the LCP, and then lauding them for their strength in challenging situations. It is so bonkers.
Yeah.
So that was like, that entire messaging was like in the book, just like showing the realities of forced migration, and the emotional truths behind it. Yeah.
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 I can continue having that conversation with you, but we'll move on to this.
Yeah.
Do you read your reviews? And how do you deal with the good or bad ones?
Okay, so because I'm from theater, I'm pretty versed at like reading a review. Like, yeah, it hurts. And because in theater school, like you get like really intense criticism all the time, and you build like a thick skin around it. Um, you can, and just the same thing in television, right? It's like, oh, why is a producer giving this note? And the usual practice, which is like what I've heard is the practice, like it's so good, it's like, listen, don't take their suggestion, but keep in mind, why were they criticizing this one part? So there's something that's off about this one part in your script. So given, yeah, that's good, but don't take their suggestion, right? So it's the same thing with reading reviews. Okay, I get it. Sure, that's what they wanted that they say. I get it. That's their opinion. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, right? And of course, not everyone's gonna like your work. I'm not gonna change the way that I write in order for more people to like my work.
Right.
That's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
But sometimes people have like really great feedback. Like I get it. Like, oh, this part I'm not so sure. Like, great. Okay, that's cool to know. I get it. Like,
Yeah.
and then also like I also love hearing people like uh applauding the work too. Like they're like, I like this part, and I'm like, oh great, I'm so glad that came across.
Yeah.
But what's so funny is that with things like Crosshairs, I actually really liked reading what made people feel uncomfortable. Like, no, thank you, I didn't like this. Because
Yeah.
if it was making people feel uncomfortable, it meant that I was doing the right thing, because it was meant
It
to
was meant to make people feel
yeah,
uncomfortable. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
because the
Yeah.
discomfort is where we're going to learn things,
Yeah.
right? And so I have to have a discomfort too reading the reviews.
Right.
Now that said, I mean, there are people on Goodreads who are not, they are just mean. They are just that, like, I don't know what somebody did to them when they were a kid, but they were just like hateful people. That and I can just like, I can just dismiss it. And I try not to sort of look at the rating or anything like that. Like, I like, what can I do? I'm not going to make everyone happy. And again, my ancestors told me to write it.
Right.
Writing it in partnership. I feel good about it. I feel great about it. I feel really proud. I know when a book begins and ends because of my ancestors. So I stand by what they're telling me to do. Great. No big deal.
You're winning awards, so obviously you're doing something right, right? So there's always going to be critics,
No,
Catherine.
but
It
then
doesn't
that's
matter
the
what
thing
you're doing.
too about like awards too, like the award culture around it. I try to think about things like I love I love when people I know send me pictures of random strangers reading my book on on transit.
Yeah.
That gives me it just gives me the feels. I'm like, oh, it's out there. That's
Yeah.
interesting. My book is out there. I hope they like it. Let's
Yeah.
see. But yeah, like I love seeing that. I love receiving messages from the public, like, really kind messages saying like, thank you so much for writing this, especially for Behind You. I've spoken to people who were used,
Mhm.
young girls used as bait to get this particular serial killer by the police. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I've spoken to like, so getting messages from people like that saying, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah.
Uh, oh my gosh, I met another person who was like, I was one of the press in that courtroom who had to watch those videos along with the jury, along with the victim's parents. I was one of those people. I received messages from those people. I and really seeing the book for what it is, like what a testament it is to all of us who survived that time.
Yeah.
All of us were a victim at that time. Like
Yeah.
we were all being we were all being victimized by this person's hate.
Yeah.
Well, these two people.
These two people. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm glad I'm that for me is an award, and it means so much more than a gala and
Mhm.
like all of those things. It me that because that's what I write it for that. I don't write it for the people who are handing out awards.
Right.
So I'm glad. It's such a an honor to be a writer. So yeah.
If you didn't write, what would you do for work?
I'm sorry.
If you didn't write, if you weren't a writer, what would you do?
Oh, well, I mean, there's a lot of things that I already do. I do like, I'm a homesteader. I love, where we are homesteading on 3.7 acres in Eastern Ontario. I learned how to beekeep, grow food. The most amount of time that I was able to survive on the food that I grew was like about 3 months. So not bad, right?
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, but I never ended up having livestock, but well, bees are technically a livestock,
These are, yeah.
but I was able to hunt a snare and fish. So that's great. So I learned all that. We are going to be moving back to Toronto just because of the fact that I'm chronically ill and I do a lot of now I'm expected to do a lot of in-person events,
Mhm.
and it means that the commute, it has been really devastating on my health, and I need to put my health first. So we're moving back to Toronto, and we've decided, we're like, you know what, the homesteading doesn't stop here. Homesteading can happen in the city, and I think that that's a really important message that we can give people in the city, is that you don't need a lot of land in order to homestead. And really what homesteading is actually connecting to other people. It's not isolating yourself and becoming, this bearded man in plaid who is just like all by himself and just like, oh, I'm so self-sufficient. Self-sufficiency actually is about connecting with others and
Right.
being in community with others. And so um, we're still going to be catching water, like still harvesting water. We're still going to be growing food on people's gardens. So we have like about 3 people that will be offering their garden to us. I'm hoping, I have a feeling, I feel like I'm gonna meet some like elder beekeeper who's like, I can't carry the boxes anymore. I can't spin the honey anymore. Like, you do it. Can you do it? I just have a feeling I'm gonna meet someone. So I'm gonna keep beekeeping, I think. Um, and
That's common here. There's a few, I know a few people who
yeah,
beekeep, so in BC, so it must be,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And the thing is that it's really is like, because it's such, it really is, it hurts your back to do it, right?
Yeah.
It's very heavy. That I'd love to help somebody, or yeah, just even help with a harvest every now and then. But I really do like beekeeping, and I'll keep on fishing and hunting when I'm in the country. I'll just keep on, like, just keep my skills up, because I do enjoy it. I do love butchering. I love like all of that.
Do you really?
Well, I learned how to butcher. Like, okay, so first off, my grandfather was a pig farmer. I
Okay.
already had it in me where I was like, I can respect an animal. I can
Yeah.
respect an animal, and we can butcher. And because of the fact that it's going to be feeding people, and we do so kindly, we don't, like all this stuff. And it is part of my culture to eat pork, And so, when I was partnered with my husband, is that then I learned how to do sheep. And so I learned how to do that from my in-laws in the Navajo Nation. Like this, so they have their res is in the Navajo Nation, 4 hours north of Phoenix. And yeah, I learned how to do that, and it was so funny because they were really impressed with me. But I was like, oh, I already had it in me. Like, I think that I don't have any shame about it. It's just more like I just had to learn sort of the logistics of it all. Like, because I just think that there is a way that you can, like, I do feel like, for example, hunting is a very, it is that you're taking a responsibility for an animal's life. You're doing it because you're feeding yourself.
Right.
And I like to learn how to do it and to know that you didn't pen that animal, like, because it was a rabbit.
Mhm.
I didn't pen that animal. I didn't, it wasn't in a cage or anything like that. And it had a lot of things to eat because of the fact that we rewilded our land. So just like a lot of responsibility around those choices, like how I can responsibly do that. It's a beautiful thing to learn, I'm glad to have learned those skills, and I could not have learned it had I not moved to the country, because like snaring is really humbling, like or learning how to use, because I got my rabbit with a bow and arrow, like it takes,
Wow.
yeah, it takes like a lot of, oh, I lost another ball. I know I lost another arrow. Like trying to sort of figure out how to do it. Like it's very humbling. And you can't just do that, like, I don't know, at some like party, or like when people
Right.
like
Yeah.
axe throwing. Like that's not how you're gonna learn. You're gonna learn because you're in the field on a regular basis, knowing how rabbits are, knowing how deer are, like you need to, or how fish are. Like it took us so long to learn how to figure out how to fish. With that entire thing, like, oh, teach a man how to fish. Like, okay, it was really humbling. Like we were like, we're just giving them worms. That's all we're doing. We're giving these fish worms. We're not doing this properly. I think we're failures. And then when we figured it out, then it was like I felt so powerful. I was like, oh, yeah, I can fish now. It feels really great. Um, but yeah, but I will be bringing those skills to the city, and teaching people about, like people should know how to catch water. Like people should know how to forage. Those are the things that I would like to teach people when we move back.
Wow, that's you're a much braver person than I am, because I would not. I like to think of chicken in a tray,
Yeah, yeah,
That's about as much as I'm gonna do.
yeah, yeah.
So you shoot, then or like you do the bow and arrow, but do you shoot with a gun as well?
No, I just have a
Okay.
crossbow. I have a
Okay.
crossbow, and I always say, like, when you watch Walking Dead, the guy with the crossbow. Okay, what they're not showing is that to cock a crossbow, it is
It's really hard.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so those are the things where you're like, oh, like you never see that guy actually loading his
Yeah.
arrow. Like you never see it. But actually it's a very intense pull-up.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing, right? It's funny. Like I just find it really hilarious, like that we had to learn all of these skills. But that's where we're going to be writing about it in a very like humorous tone, about
Mhm.
what it's like to watch basically societal and environmental collapse, try to sort of make it out in the country, and not really, like,
I
not
would
much.
fail. I'm telling you right now, I would fail.
Oh, no, we failed. Like, let me tell you, we failed over and over and over again. But with our heads held high, we figured a lot of stuff. We figured out a lot of stuff. There's other stuff that we weren't quite amazing at, but we really went in. We really committed to it, and now we're really committed to bringing those skills to the city, to Toronto. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to doing that.
There was a comment in the chat that crosshairs needs to be read by a lot more people, that this person still thinks about it all the time. So,
Thank you. Yeah,
mhm.
I appreciate you saying that, just because, I just want to be honest. It was not a commercial success.
Yeah,
Just because that just goes to show you, right, how insidious uh white supremacy is
right.
that the book was often seen as like, this is outrageous, like it's far-fetched or anything. But I'm like, wait,
It's
isn't that
not.
like,
It's not. It's
yeah,
not.
Lion, Witch, in the Wardrobe. Nobody was like, why is there a lion? Why
Yeah.
is there a witch? Why is there wardrobe? No one said that. You know
No.
what I mean? Like, it's funny how certain fictions can be taken seriously, whereas again, I really feel like it was a lot of silencing because of the fact that I'm a queer brown person, telling a very difficult truth. Um, Really, people are very quick to dismiss things that feel uncomfortable. That is fine.
Yeah.
One friend said, I just want you to know that people will take this book seriously when they're ready.
When they're, yes.
When they're ready. I feel like now is the time.
Yeah. start reading it.
Then was the time, but now today is a great day to read the book. Hopefully it will enlighten people and really inspire action.
Yeah, and we have copies at the library, just saying.
Thank you for carrying that. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Anyway, Catherine, this has been such a pleasure. I have been fangirling. So when I first reached out to Catherine, I was like, please do this. I would love to interview you. So I'm so delighted to have done this and had the ability to chat with you like this, or the opportunity to chat with you. So thank you for agreeing to be here, and thank you for all of you there who have joined us. It's been an absolute pleasure meeting you virtually. Please check out our website, or the posters around the library for details on our other events in the festival. And please consider submitting a short feedback form that can be found on the back of the festival brochure. We also encourage you to complete a feedback form that's around the library. So we hope you can join us for the rest of the festival. And thank you again, Catherine.
Thank you all. Have a great, great evening. Bye.
Bye.